Power cord was pulled out of my SMEG fridge/freezer. Need a wiring diagram.
Sometimes appliance issues that you think will be really complicated end up being easy to fix. The appliance technician I'm going to connect to with knows all the tricks and shortcuts. Tell me a bit more about what's going on so we can help you best.
Need a wiring diagram for SMEG fridge/freezer. Power cord was pulled out, and I need to wire it in correctly.
Is there anything else the appliance technician should be aware of?
No.
Okay. Got it. I'm sending you to a secure page on JustAnswer so you can place the $5 fully refundable deposit now. While you're filling out that form, I'll tell the appliance technician about your situation and then connect you to.
Attached to the compressor is a black box for wiring, with no wires attached. Power cord is missing. 4 wires from top of fridge, I assume are for thermostat, light and fan. 2 wires coming from capacitor/dryer also not attached. I believe they all connect within the black box but don't know sequence or pairing. American 3-wire AC setup.
Hi, welcome to JustAnswer. My name is. I look forward to helping you. Please know that I am not compensated for my time by the site until you rate using the stars at the top of your page. A rating is appreciated once we get to the solution for your appliance issue. Thanks. The line voltage will go to the overload on the compressor, the neutral to the relay at the compressor, and a line may split in that box for the condenser fan motor. May I please have your model number so I am able to provide you with accurate, model-specific information?
Model Fab 28 UVR.
Were the wires left on and just the junction box removed as pictured, or were the wires removed individually?
This is the piece that slides onto prongs of compressor. All wires pulled out.
I will see what I can find. While I look, I will place your question back to the list for others to see in case another has a diagram readily available.
To your earlier question. The wires were disconnected. Junction box appears and wires appear to be fine. No power cord though. I made one with connections for junction box. Just not sure what colors go where.
Can you give me the model number of your fridge please, and also the model number of the compressor and manufacturer?
Model of the fridge is SMEG model Fab 28 UVR. Model of the compressor is LG LA62 LACM.
Herewith diagram for you Fab 28 is requested. Would you now kindly rate the information supplied by selecting from the star rating system at the top of the page? Once done, all further questions are free of charge. Thank you for using JA and have a great day, Ian.
Thanks for the diagram. I need to study a little closer, but the wire colors and black box don't appear to match up with what I have. I will respond with more photos so you can see or recommend. Thanks, David.
David, that is the correct diagram for the Fab 28. The only thing that changes is the manufacturer of the compressor as SMEG buy them in, so I just need you to give me photos of the relay or PTC starter that plugs into 2 of the compressor terminals and the overload assembly that plugs into the other. If you break it down into sections, it's not too bad. You have a live, HO0 wire that goes to the compressor electrical connector block, and the same for the neutral. The live feed then goes up to the thermostat/fast freeze button and then returns to power the compressor. Let me have the pics requested and we can reconnect the appliance.
Thanks for your patience. Related to the junction box, photo appears as it mounts to the compressor. Top right bank I assume is for grounds, since the connection is secured with a screw to the compressor. The prongs in the back that slide into the compressor are the brass-colored bank on the right of the junction box, and the two connections in the center, one with a blue wire on it. The blue wire was already attached where it is. I built a similar wire for the other center connection, anticipating the need to connect one of the other banks to it. Hopefully, you can see my confusion with the wire colors I physically have compared to the wiring diagram you sent. Thanks again for the help. David?
Okay, I can see that someone has been playing about with this by the type of connector on the main supply cable. So I need you to get access to the thermostat and tell me what cable connects to which terminal on the thermostat. If it's a Renko thermostat, as I expect, life will be much easier. Secondly, do you have a multimeter?
In the process of gaining access to thermostat to check wires, I found a loose, unattached decal of a wiring diagram. The diagram shows the wire colors of thermostat. However, not how they should come together in the junction box. I hope this helps. I do have a multimeter, but not very skilled in the use of it. DC.
Okay, that's fine and enough to do the job. If you look at the connection block on the compressor, you should have marking L. L2N and ground. Tell me if you can see them and we will finish the job off, Ian.
It's not exactly as you mentioned. In reference to the attached picture, the orientation is as follows: the bottom left connections labeled as L. The bottom right connection is labeled with a single I. The top left blue wire is labeled N. The top right, which get grounded to the compressor with set screw, is labeled with an upside down T with two dashes under it. The center rounded portion of the box connector is labeled with a 2, the top connector with the blue wire attached is labeled with a 3. Each of these match up on the back side to prongs coming out of compressor. And lastly, the two brass connectors on the right are not labeled, but directly connect on the back side to the third prong coming out of the compressor. Hope this helps.
Okay, got it now. This is how it goes, and I'm going to do it cable by cable and assume you have not changed any of the cables over from the thermostat. Off we could take the mains cable and connect in turn the following black wire to the white wire to earth, ground, to the brass connector that screws to the side. Now cable to unit controls, 4 wire, black wire to L, same area as mains cables, white wire to N, diode to earth, ditto red to 1 start capacitor. One cable goes to the N tag, the other goes to the spare tag on the start relay, likely marked S, the other side to the blue. That done, all you have to do is plug it in, test it and put the covers on. Well done. Would you now kindly rate the information sought and given by selecting from the star rating system at the top of the page? It's been a pleasure working with you these last days, even allowing for the 8-hour time difference. Have a great weekend and see you next time around. Take care, Ian.
Hi Ian, still have issue. Hooked it all up with confidence as you laid out. So much confidence that I put covers back, door back on, and let compressor set for a few hours upright before plugging it in. It immediately tripped GFCI outlet when plugged in. What do you recommend? Update, reread your instructions. Moved all of the green wires to the ground area, off of the brass-colored prong, and I quit throwing GFCI outlet. I now have an interior light. But the compressor hasn't came on. Should I assume its thermostat wires are wrong, or that single red wire on the I grouping that isn't paired with anything?
Okay, let me try and explain what we are trying to do. We can split it down into section. The block on the back of the compressor is used not only for switching of the compressor but also for the connection of the incoming cables. For the compressor to work, you need a live and neutral tube, but for it to be temperature controlled it must go through a thermostat. So the power in goes to the live and neutral tags on the connector box. This is your supply. You then take a live and neutral from this box into the cabinet. This provides a source of power for the internal lamp and a switchable power supply to feed the compressor. The live supply to the compressor is not an input to the compressor, purely a connector of cables. So to summarize, the power cord provides a neutral connection and an earth connection to the compressor. The live only junctions there and passes up one wire through the thermostat and back down and connects to lag number 1 in the compressor box. Now if you can grasp this, do you have a multimeter?
Thanks, grasp the concept in general terms and normal colors to me. The box is what is partially throwing me in the way it's wired. Instead of load 1 and 2, the box is using L and I on the opposite side of N and G. I also grasp that everything needing direct current will be wired either into L or N with the mains. Some with switches in between to complete the circuit. What is throwing me is the back side of box that connects the compressor with 3 prongs. My logic says they should be L, N, G. Since N was already jumped directly on one side, the opposite side should be the L coming from the thermostat switch. My GFCI mistake was assuming the third prong, the unlabeled brass fittings, would be G, and should also be grounded. The other piece that I am not sure of is which component, thermostat, light, or capacitor should be wired into L2 or I as we use it. Sorry for stringing this out. We'll gladly pay more to get this working correctly. If I need to open another question, please advise. David.
On a compressor you have 2 windings that are linked together but work separately. So do the 3 pins. The one at the top, 1, is the live feed to both fields, either common connection fed throughout the thermostat. The other 2 are the start and the run, which are fed by the neutral supply and the capacitor. So an overview, the positive supply to the compressor comes in at the mains cable, black, L1, it then goes inside the unit to the thermostat. Note that the live is not in any way connected to the compressor at this point, it is just a connection point for other things to connect to, and then when the thermostat is switched on, comes back down the red wire and connects at the top of the connector on the compressor. You now need a neutral feed. This is your L2. L2 also supplies a neutral feed into the cabinet to supply the neutral required for the lamp to operate. The capacitor then connects between L2 and the spare tag on the relay. That is a hotpoint connector block, but very like the one you have got.
Yes, sir, I think I understand. I think the disconnect between us is how I interpreted the wire-by-wire instructions. Assuming on the black box, L is load 1 and is neutral, and the upside-down T is where all of the earths or grounds go, because that bank of connections are included with the screw that secures the black box to the outside of the unit. There is a blue jumper wire from N to one of the compressor prong connections labeled as 3 on the neutral and ground top half of the box. On the top half of the box, I have all of the green wires going to the upside-down T ground connectors that are grounded with screw. On the 3 leftover N connections, I have the white main, the white from the 4-wire, and the blue from the start capacitor. On the bottom half of the box, left 4 connector block marked with L, I have the black main wire, the black from the 4-wire, right 4 connector block marked with I, just a straight line. Assumed L2 has the red wire connected form the 4-wire lower center marked 2 is a compressor prong connection, opposite the N, with the red wire from the start capacitor. I assume from your directions that this is how you suggested the setup, but our label definitions got a little crossed. Because of that, here are my 3 areas of concern. 1. The red wire coming out of the 4 wire is connected to the lower right bank of connections labeled as I or just a straight line. You called it 1, so I assumed this group of connections is a L2. However, it appears to only be an isolated junction on the box. It is not connected to a prong on the compressor and appears not to be connected with the load bank of connections on the lower left either. The red wire from the 4 wire I think is dead there. 2. The start capacitor has 2 wires, red and blue. I connected the blue wire to N and the red to the lower center connection, which is a prong on the compressor labeled as 2 on the box, opposite the blue jumper. You called it S. If I interpreted your instructions correctly, I don't see that it's possible for the compressor to get a positive power source. Neutral is upper prong labeled as 3, the lower prong labeled as 2 is input from a non-powered start capacitor, since other wire went to N.3. Back to the 3 compressor prongs.
Obviously my assumption that the compressor needed L, N and G was wrong according to GFCI breaker and seconded by your comments.
It should at least have a power source, right, which it currently does not. Did you mean via your instructions, that instead of the red, 4-wire group, going to I dead space, that it is coming from thermostat and should connect to the far right bank of connections, which is the 3rd compressor input prong? Or should I leave it at L2 and jump it similar to how they did N? Thanks again, David.
Firstly, is the picture above the same as you have?
Yes, sir. Please compare my last status to the wire-by-wire instructions you gave. It hasn't changed since you sent it to me. I just keep trying to explain it, so you can see there is no power source to the compressor. Not from the non-powered start capacitor as recommended, and if the red from the 4 wire is power from thermostat, it's going to L2, L, which is not an input to compressor.
Okay, can you make up a cable with a plug on one end and cables with spade connectors on the other? It will need to be long enough to reach from the receptacle to the compressor.
Already made. Does page 24 help? I'm grasping.
Okay, off we go. Take note of where the cables go before you remove them. I want you to remove all cable from the start relay/overload assembly. Now with your lead, connect the black wire to connector 1 on the relay/overload and the white cable to L2, neutral. Plug the compressor relay/overload into the back of the compressor and then connect the other end into the wall receptacle and tell me, does the compressor run?
I unhooked everything from the junction box except for the blue jumper wired from N to the number 3 in box, top right prong of the compressor. I then took the white main wire and plugged it into N. Next I took the black load wire from the main and plugged it into number 2, top left prong of the compressor. I took the green wire from the main, and plugged it into one of the ground connections and grounded it by screwing the black box into place over the prongs. I plugged into an extension cord that was connected to a GFCI outlet. The compressor came on and started humming, then I unplugged it. For curiosity's sake, I took the black box off the prongs and only moved the black main wire to the lower brass connections not labeled on the black box, the low center prong of the compressor. I plugged it in and it sounded like a fan motor came on inside the compressor. I quickly unplugged it. Hope this helps. Please see attached photo. Although we both type English fairly well, I don't speak electrician adequately. It's somewhat difficult for me to communicate with you on what I'm seeing, and I may not be following your directions the way you intended. The attachment is a photo of the black box as it plugs into the compressor prongs, as well as the way I wired it as I understood your instructions. Hopefully, you can print it and communicate back with the way you intended it to be wired using the included labels. My eyes are getting blurry comparing wiring diagram you sent, along with the diagram decal and unit, as well as the LG compressor diagram. There are similarities and inconsistencies. Thanks, David. Forgot to attach the file.
Please follow my instructions, not what you are surmising is correct. Once again, and only these wires totally disconnect all wires to the compressor connector block, all wires off, then connect the black wire to one on the connector block and white to the neutral tag on the connector block, L2, then plug it in and tell me if the compressor is running. No other wires to be connected.
Again, please look at the diagram I last sent you. There is not a connection labeled as one on the connection block. There is a connection labeled as N, but not L2. Therefore, I can only surmise your intentions label the connections in the photo, with what is physically written on the connection block. Would have responded sooner, but site went down for maintenance.
Okay, let's try it this way, made up lead with the plug on the other end. Black cable to the bottom connector without any labeling on it. White cable to neutral with link wire, blue, still in situ as per your last picture. Plug in and tell me what happens.
See my previous comment and diagram. I surmised again your instructions to be the white wire from the plug to the N connection on the connection block. The black wire from the plug to the I section of the connection block. The sticker diagram labels I as L2, the net of that experiment did not turn on the compressor. The previous was sent at the same time as your latest instruction. So disregard my last reply. Okay, I tried that. White to neutral, with blue jumper to 3 and black to unlabeled brass connection, the result produces the sound like a noisy air compressor. Unlike the quiet refrigeration humming sound when wired the other way, white to N, jump to 3 and black directly to 2.
Okay, now link the start capacitor from neutral to the spare tag on the relay and then plug in again. Results now.
A layman's assumption and question: if I wire this identical to the sticker diagram attached, and make a similar jumper wire from L or L2 as it suggests to 2 or Q on the diagram, do you think that would work? And if it does, where would the wires from the start capacitor connect? Since they aren't in the diagram. Sorry, per your last instruction. Start capacitor, blue to N. And red to the other tag on the unmarked brass connection at bottom. Leaving main wires as last requested, white to N, and black to tag on an unmarked brass connection. Sticker diagram that came with unit.
The brass tag thing at the bottom is called the overload, the brown/black thing in the middle is called the relay assembly. The relay assembly should have a cable coming from neutral to it and going to a tag on the relay marked M. The start capacitor then has one side connected to neutral and the other side connected to the relay marked S.
Thanks. As you can see, connection block isn't labeled that way. That is why I'm having to assume what you mean. There is no M or S labeled on the block. The center relay has 2 connections labeled 3 and 2. The unit arrived with a jumper wire between N and 3. So please repeat your latest instructions.
Okay, start capacitor between N and 2.
Check, and main wires still at white to N and black to overload. Some lag between us. I tried main wire white to N, black to overload. And capacitor blue to N and red to 2. Result was compressor came on, the same as before without capacitor attached.
Okay, run the compressor for 30 minutes and tell me if it is cooling inside.
Okay, we'll check back. Another quick question related to your last request. Fridge has been laying on its front with door off, while working with wiring 24 hours. It's upright now with door on. How long should it remain upright before I plug it in for 30 minutes without damaging it? It's been laying down for about 18 hours.
About 30 minutes should do it to let the oil drain back into the compressor.
Done. Unit is cooling well. Following diagram that was inside unit, this is what I would like to try based on previous experiments. Please correct my logic if I've gone astray. Main wire from plug white to N, black to L, green to ground, upper wires black to L, white to N, green to ground, red to L or load 2, start capacitor blue to N, red to 2 relay, and similar to jumper from N to 3. Diagram shows jumper from L, L2, to overload protector that should work, right? Diagram in unit. Not going to try it, until you say okay.
If you go back to the instructions I posted on 21,052,016 at 0643, you will see that this follows the connections as per the circuit diagram supplied above. The only difference is that I listed the red wire, in line with the diagram, going to 1, in your case for ease of identification it is the brass-colored connector at the bottom. Overload assembly. On a second point, you never run a compressor other than upright, so if you have been testing it with the fridge face down, I'm not surprised it was knocking. So to summarize once again. Live supply goes to the compressor connector L1, there are no connections to anything other than the tag, then from there up to the thermostat. Neutral goes to neutral connector and then to internal light and one side of the capacitor. Other side of the capacitor to terminal 2 on the relay. There is a blue link from here to other side of relay. Red now comes back from the thermostat and connects to L2, once again no connection to anything other than the tag. Now if you still can't grasp the concept, let me have your phone number and I will talk you through it. No, this is where you may be getting lost. L2 at this time, if not connected to the compressor, you either have lost a jumper or they connected directly to the overload assembly. Ian.
Got it. Wired it as you described, which matched my previous suggested approach. I built a jumper from L or L2 to what you are calling 1, overload. I uprighted fridge for about 18 more hours so oil could return to compressor before plugging it in. I tested connections with GFCI to make sure everything worked and was grounded. It has been running fine and cooling for about an hour. All seems well. Thanks for your assistance and persistence. I apologize for my impatience. The lag between questions and answers was a challenge for me. David.
Glad you got it sorted at last. The circuit for me after 25 years as a fridge engineer is quite simple, but of course I tend to see how to shortcut while someone without such experience can't see the simplicity. Well done for sticking it out. One thing is for sure, you won't have problems doing it in the future. Take care and have a great day, Ian.
If you have a home improvement or appliance question and want to chat with an expert now, visit justanswer.com/ythi.